All right, fellas, today we are breaking down the Senior Bowl, the Reese's Senior Bowl, a big event that kicks off the start of the NFL draft season. There's a lot of things that took place in Mobile, Alabama that we got to break down from a Dynasty fantasy football perspective. We also had Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network's top draft analyst, release his top 50. So I'm going to kind of go through today's video, kind of react to what happened and give you guys my thoughts and my opinions. But first, before we do that, I do need to announce a special new product that we have coming over to flockfantasy.com. The buy, sell, hold report, where you guys can submit your teams using our My Teams feature. You can see exactly who we would buy in your league based on who owns that player, who has that guy on their team, what we would pay for those guys. All you have to do to submit to a buy, sell, hold report is go to our site, follow the prompts in the trade question area, and you guys can basically get a buy, sell, hold report, leave us any comments, slide the slider all the way till it says buy, sell, hold report, and you can get a buy, sell, hold report for free if you sign up right now for an annual subscription. You'll get a team review for free and a buy, sell, hold voucher for free so that you guys can submit and get your buy, sell, hold reports going. In this time of the offseason, I'm sure a lot of people are really excited to get ahead of their league mates. So the buy, sell, hold report can definitely help you guys out with that. We've been trying to launch this thing for the last couple of weeks. We finally do have it live. So definitely check it out if you guys are interested. If you're an annual sub, you know that you purchased a subscription back in like March or something, unfortunately, you will not actually get your free voucher for a buy, sell, hold report until you renew your subscription, but you can purchase them a la carte right now. So that is everything that we got going on. Also, quick note too, the prospects in the FSE prospect model will be updated on the site very, very soon. We're going to add in the 2025 prospects. That will be a lot of fun. I've got both models done, running back and wide receiver. Of course, we had to project a little bit, but we will have that coming to the site probably early next week, but maybe late this week as well. So Senior Bowl recap. What matters? For those of you guys that are unaware, you have no idea what the Senior Bowl is. Basically, it's an event where a bunch of draft prospects, usually seniors, but they have opened it up to underclassmen, go to the NFL draft community. There's a lot of team representatives there. They have a couple coaches going through practice. And from Tuesday to Thursday of this week, basically all these prospects were practicing and getting live reps, live bullets with these NFL teams. And there's really only two reasonable takeaways that a lot of people have from these events. For starters, they officially weigh these prospects. They measure them in. They get the hand size. They get the arm length. They get the wingspan. Same way they do at the combine, only we get them a little bit earlier, so we get to react to a couple of prospects here. So the measurement's an important part of the Senior Bowl and definitely something that I'm going to talk about in a second. And then the really big umbrella statement that I'm going to make for the second most important part of the Senior Bowl is draft capital. Now, what I actually mean by this is if you practice well, if you impress the NFL teams with your interviews, all that you really need to take away from our perspective as Dynasty players is that you've improved your draft stock. And the higher the draft capital you have, the better of a Dynasty pick you're likely to be just by historical hit rates and whatnot. We would rather have a first-round quarterback than a second-round quarterback. We would rather have a second-round running back than a fourth-round running back. That's just basically the way things go. So when you see, if you guys have been following Twitter all week, you've probably seen, practice clips of a guy, torching somebody. Tez Johnson from Oregon, for example, had a clip that went kind of viral where he just kind of roasted a guy off the line of scrimmage. Those things are good. Great. Get excited about them if you have these prospects in Devy leagues or if you want to, get excited about your rookie picks. But realistically, the only thing that matters is did they improve their draft stock? So I'll talk about that in a second. Let's start with kind of some winners and losers from the measurement standpoint, because like I said, measurements are a really important part of the Senior Bowl. If you were listed at a certain weight and you came in heavier or lighter or shorter or taller than what you were listed at, that's either a good or a bad thing. So let's start with the winners, and we'll start with Devin Neal from Kansas, the running back who is the all-time leading rusher of the Kansas Jayhawks. He was listed at 5'10", 205 to 208 pounds. He came in at 220, so that is huge for him. He is a great prospect. I literally just graded him yesterday for our draft guide, which will be coming out, about 2.5 weeks from now. Devin Neal is a great prospect, and the fact that he actually came in as a 220-pound back is great news for him because he's a good ball carrier, good contact balance, all that kind of stuff. So he's definitely a winner of the measurements standpoint there. We also have Byshell Tootin, who's a very fast running back, very good athleticism from Virginia Tech. He was listed, I believe, at 5'11", 205, give or take, and he came in at 5'8" and some change, 211. Now, he's a little bit shorter than what he was listed at, but that's actually a good thing for the running back position because it means your BMI is higher. Usually, NFL teams were more likely to give a guy who's like a little bit stouter, a little bit bit thicker, a bigger workload. And the fact that he came in at 211 and not like 202 or 205, usually you don't see that. For a guy who's listed like 5'11", 205, usually they're more likely to come in like 5'9", 195. So the fact that he came in about 5'9", 211 pounds for a guy who's as fast as he is and actually has some redeeming qualities from an analytics standpoint. He was very elusive and so on and so forth. He's a guy that I'm very excited about what he's going to do at the Combine, because I have a feeling right now people are looking at him as like a third, fourth round rookie pick. He might end up being, this year's kind of Jalen Wright from Tennessee last year, where he tested really well and kind of improved his draft stock. I could see Byshell Tootin kind of doing the same thing. Going to Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. Maybe I'm just scarred from a guy like Quentin Johnston and other guys who were listed like 6'4", 215 pounds. But the fact that Jaden Higgins actually came in at that size that he was listed at is a great thing, because I feel like when it comes to tall receivers who are heavy, we always get them overrated. It's always like, oh, this guy's 6'5" and 225 pounds. He comes in like 6'2.5", like 210. That's not what happened with Jaden Higgins. He was listed 6'4", 215. He comes in 6'4", 217, which is definitely great. Harold Fannin Jr. of Bowling Green, the tight end who was very, very productive this year, probably the most productive tight end in this class. He was listed at 6'3", 225 to 230 pounds. He came in at 238, which is great because a lot of NFL scouts, a lot of NFL teams probably view him as like, okay, what is he? Is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? The fact that he's, damn near close to 240 pounds now puts him kind of in that Evan Ingram size profile, and maybe he can add a little bit more weight getting into the Combine as well. That's definitely great news for him, because I feel like given his production, if he's able to, let's say, clear 240 pounds, get a little bit better as a blocker, he could be a really, really interesting year one kind of producer at the tight end position. But if he was 225 pounds, we'd be talking about him switching to wide receiver, and then suddenly you got a big learning curve and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that Fannin came in close to 240 is definitely great news. This one is a guy that came in actually lighter than what he was listed at, but I think it's a good thing. So Damian Martinez from Miami, also previously of Oregon State. I've already graded him for the draft guide, so I know exactly what his tape looked like. He reminded me of like a Kareem Hunt, kind of Chris Carson type of mold, where he's this big physical power back. But to be honest with you, he was listed like 235, 240, and I think he did actually play at that size. I think he was a little too heavy. I think he needed to be a little bit more spry, and the fact that he kind of slimmed down a little bit by the looks of it here at 226 is great news, because I think he's going to test better as a result. I think he's going to have more burst, more explosion as a result. He's got plenty of power. He didn't need that extra 5-10 pounds of power, because that is his, calling card, and he can do that at 226. So I'm really hoping he tests well at the Combine. Good news that he had a pretty decent set of practices as well. Donovan Edwards from Michigan. 2-3 years ago, we were thinking he was going to be one of the best backs in his draft class when he ended up coming out. Didn't really have a great season the last 2 years, but he did come in at 215, and he was listed like 202 to 210. So he came in a little bit heavier. Maybe that was by design. Obviously, he's a good receiving prospect, but we'll see what he can do on the ground. I tend to think he's probably not that good of a prospect, but we'll see what he does at the NFL Combine. RJ Harvey from UCF, the last winner that we're going to talk about here, 5'7" and some change, 207. He was listed 5'9", 195. So again, BMI-wise, definitely a better profile for RJ Harvey. He actually, only to Ashton Genty, was second in this class in breakaway runs, so he's also probably going to test pretty well from a speed standpoint as well. Let's get into some of the losers of the weigh-in. So this first guy I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on. There's a reason he's on the thumbnail for this video. Ollie Gordon, running back from Oklahoma State, of course, for those of you guys that follow college football, was the Doak Walker Award winner in 2023, led the college football in rushing. So he was excellent in 2023. This year, had a bad season. He comes in 6'1" and some change, 233 pounds. Now, he was listed at 212 pounds on Oklahoma State's website. So I have knucklehead watch out for Ollie Gordon. For those of you guys that don't know, I refer to dumb prospects who do stupid things as knuckleheads. And Ollie Gordon, the fact that I'm starting to follow some breadcrumbs here. The fact that he came in at 233 when he was listed 212, and reportedly it's a good thing. Reportedly scouts were impressed by his size. But could this be bad weight? Is my only thing with Ollie Gordon. Remember, this is the same dude that won the Doak Walker in 2023, had an awesome season, and then this summer was arrested for a DUI where he had open liquor bottles, tequila and vodka bottles in his car. And then he comes out in 2024, looks less explosive, doesn't really have that great of a season. What did I say at the beginning of this video again? What did you do to improve your draft stock? Again, measurements are great, but what I saw on Twitter was a lot of scouts saying that Ollie Gordon didn't really look the same, didn't have the same explosiveness. A lot of NFL draft scouts really tanked him in their rankings. PFF's Mike Renner was asked outright by, an NFL draft fan, when do you think Ollie Gordon is going to hear his name called on the NFL draft? And he said 5th round. So again, the draft capital is the thing I'm worried about with Ollie Gordon. Every single year, seemingly, we have a prospect that the NFL draft community is a lot lower on than the fantasy community, the dynasty community. Last year it was Troy Franklin. The year before that it was Zach Evans. We always have this guy that, because he was a good freshman, because he was a good sophomore, so on and so forth, the Devian dynasty community really props him up, and then the NFL draft community is not as sold. So again, great news that Ollie Gordon received some positive buzz for his size. Great news that I heard a lot of people saying he looked good as a receiver, but the lack of explosiveness and kind of knucklehead watch has me a little bit worried for his draft capital, because if NFL teams are worried that he's a knucklehead, he's going to fall in the NFL draft as well. So a couple weigh-in losers as well that we also need to talk about here is Tez Johnson from Oregon. He comes in at 156 pounds. That's light, man. That's really light. I weigh 150, and I know I would pass away on an NFL field. So the fact that this dude's 156 is not great. And Tank Dell, Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy, Josh Downs, some of the prospects in recent years that people have said are too light, have 10 to 15 pounds on this dude. So Tez Johnson looked great in drills, looked great in practice, obviously had a good production profile, 5 years of good production, especially when him and Bo Nix were teamed up at Oregon, and even this year with Dillon Gabriel. He produced at a high level. The problem I have with Tez Johnson is Tank Dell weighs 10 pounds heavier than this dude, and he's dealt with injuries in the NFL, and a lot of people are down on Tank Dell's dynasty value as a result. Again, Tez Johnson, probably a guy you're going to get in the 3rd, 4th round of dynasty rookie drafts because of this size, and maybe he is the next Tank Dell, or maybe he's the next Tutu Atwell, because this is a small receiver, and I worry about his ability to play in the NFL given that size. I like the profile. I like the production. I think he has good film, but I'm worried that he's just simply too small to hold up at the next level. Xavier Restrepo, the other kind of loser from the weigh-ins, was 5'11" listed weight at Miami, comes in at 5'9". So a little bit Josh Downsy. I remember Josh Downs was listed like 5'11", 190. He came in like 5'9", 171. Thankfully, Restrepo's a little thicker. He's 200 pounds. But I will say he's going to be a slot-only guy in the NFL. He was like 95% of his snaps in the slot in college, so that was probably not a surprise. But the fact that he comes in 5'9" means he's definitely probably going to be a slot guy in the NFL. So Senior Bowl standouts. Now, I wasn't at the Senior Bowl. A lot of people probably were. So what I did was I scoured winners and losers articles from all over the place. ESPN, PFF, NFL.com. I listened to a couple of podcasts as well. So instead of getting one person's opinion, like let's say I was at the Senior Bowl and I could tell you who I thought was a winner and a loser, I got the opinions basically of the entire NFL draft community kind of wrapped up in this little chart here. So I think it's more important to kind of double and triple source some of this information anyways. So I'm going to go through position by position and talk about the guys that popped up the most in these winners and losers articles. Now, at quarterback, Jackson Dart was the guy that popped up the most as the biggest winner of the Senior Bowl here. He showcased good tools, ball placement, and his college profile kind of speaks for itself. You guys know, if you've been following this channel, I've actually been in on Jackson Dart for like 2.5 years now, because there was a chance going back to summer scouting before the 2024 NFL draft cycle. I thought that he was going to be in that class, and I actually thought he had a chance to really compete with J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix and Michael Penix as the QB3 in that class. He ended up going back to school, and of course now he's eligible for this year. These types of events are really crucial for a guy like Jackson Dart, because the biggest knock on Jackson Dart is that he played in an RPO-style offense that Lane Kiffin runs, and it's an easy, one-read type of offense. NFL teams need to get him in an environment like this to see how he works in a pro-style offense, see how he works under center, and that's going to improve his draft stock. I've seen a lot of people talk about the fact that he could be QB2 in this class, could be QB1 in this class, could actually go in round 1 based on his strong Senior Bowl performance. So great news for Jackson Dart. And subsequently, great news for us as Dynasty Superflex rookie players, because if he goes in the first round, he's going to probably make a 2-quarterback race, a 3-quarterback race, and that pushes down more prospects. And if you need quarterbacks, that's great news for you as well. Dillon Gabriel of Oregon comes in pretty small, 5'11", 202, but he looked mature, apparently, according to a lot of the articles that I saw. I mean, he should be. He's really old and in control most of the week. Likely like a day 3 quarterback, backup Stetson Bennett type, but worth noting nonetheless. Jalen Milroe, unfortunately, did not look good. In the first 2 days of practice, the consensus apparently was that he looked raw, he looked inaccurate. Day 3 of practice apparently had a better day. In my opinion, this guy is likely a day 2 prospect, probably even a day 3 prospect. The Senior Bowl is something that he has to crush if he wants to get drafted in the first round, because if you watch Jalen Milroe's Alabama tape, you do not see a first-round quarterback prospect. You need to see a guy in the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, in interviews, that you think, I'm going to bet on this guy's potential. I'm not going to bet on what he is now. And apparently his potential and what he is now is just not a first-round quarterback prospect based on what he did at the Senior Bowl. So running back-wise, there was a lot of great prospects at the Senior Bowl because this class is just really good at the running back position. You have guys like Devin Neal, who I talked about already, won the measurements, looked spry, looked elusive according to the articles that I read. Damian Martinez, very physical, more pop in his step given the fact that he dropped weight. Great news for him. Trevor Etienne from the University of Georgia, obviously the younger brother of Travis Etienne. He looked really good as a pass catcher, according to a lot of scouts and a lot of people at the Senior Bowl. And LaQuint Allen of Syracuse, also praised as a pass catcher, led this class with the most receptions of any running back as well. RJ Harvey from UCF, as I talked about already, led this class with 32 breakaway runs outside of Ashton Genty because he's in his own category. He had 36 breakaway runs this year. He got a lot of shout for his explosive nature, which, like I said, is a good thing because he added weight. According to his weigh-in, he was 207. He was listed 195, so that's great news for him that he still looks fast, still looks spry. Like I said, the only loser I could find was Ollie Gordon, who I alluded to already. There were a lot of mixed reports. The articles I read, some of them said he looked great as a receiver and that he was big, this hulking presence. Some of them said he looked slow, not that explosive, didn't really pop in any one area. So for those of you guys that think I hate Ollie Gordon, he's actually my RB6 in my film grades and also factoring kind of his analytic profile. So I am high on him. The ability, the player that I saw, I'm kind of hoping that he can recapture his 2023 form. But could this showing at the Senior Bowl, plus his DUI, any character concerns that he might have, result in teams letting him go to a late day 3 grade? And I'm kind of scarred from like Sean Tucker and Zach Evans and some of these guys the Devy and Dynasty community was really high on. So not great for Ollie Gordon. I do think he probably hurt his draft stock at the Senior Bowl more so than he helped it, but we'll see what he does at the NFL Combine. If he comes in, and that 233 is good weight and it's not bad weight and he tests super, super well, then maybe NFL teams will start to talk themselves back into Ollie Gordon recapturing that 2023 form. But as of now, according to everything that I've seen, it looks like he's going to be a late day 3 pick and not a guy that's going to go in the second or the third round like we thought he was going to coming into the 2024 season. He kind of just had a really horrible run out from the DUI to the bad season, so on and so forth there. So the wide receiver position, not a whole lot to report here. The wide receiver class isn't very good, especially the players that were at the Senior Bowl. Like a lot of the best receivers in this class are underclassmen. Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka didn't go to the Senior Bowl. Travis Hunter plays wide receiver and corner, and he's also an underclassman. Jalen Royals of Utah State, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, both of Iowa State, and Jack Beck of TCU, I would say are probably the highest draft capital prospects that were there. All of them got some pop in some of the articles that I saw. Jack Beck was praised for his hands primarily. Of course, he lost his brother in the New Orleans attack, so he's going to have an interesting story for a lot of NFL teams. Jalen Royals for his route running. A lot of people said he looked really polished for a small school prospect. That's great for him. And then Jaden Higgins, obviously size, speed, route running combination. He is one of definitely my most interesting wide receiver prospects in this class outside of the top guys. And then Jalen Noel, his teammate, also praised for his route running ability. So again, wide receiver class, not much to report there. There's just not a whole lot of great prospects there. The tight end class is one that was really interesting because this position, I don't think everyone is quite hip to yet. Brett Coleman tweeted that this tight end class might be one of the best in 2 decades. Daniel Jeremiah says things along a similar line, that he thinks this tight end class is very good. Remember, just 2 years ago, we had a great tight end class in 2023 with Sam Laporta and Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid and Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave and all the guys that we had in that class. But by far, the most common names in all of these winners and losers articles were tight ends, especially Elijah Arroyo from Miami, who came in at about 6'4" and some change, 250 pounds, which is actually slightly bigger than he was listed. I think he was listed like 6'3.5", 6'4", 240, 245 pounds. So the fact that he had some bigger size than people thought is great news. A lot of people, the main sentiment that I saw in Elijah Arroyo, who was 100% the most common name in all of these articles, was that he just moves differently than other people, which is great because if you're a big tight end and you have great movement ability, that's how you get a Jimmy Graham. That's how you get a Rob Gronkowski. That's how you get one of these special once-in-a-generation type of players. Now, I'm not saying that Elijah Arroyo is that good. I'm just saying that a lot of people said he moves differently. He's got great hands. He's a good route runner, so on and so forth. Mason Taylor from LSU is the son of Pro Football Hall of Famer Jason Taylor, and coincidentally also the nephew of Joy Taylor, who's been the talk of ESPN for the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure a lot of people will have some comments about that. He had a lot of great practices as well. Hands, route running, being the things that people praised about him. He's also a bigger tight end, 6'4", 250 pounds. So Mason Taylor, definitely a guy that probably improved his draft stock. And then you have Harold Fannin of Bowling Green, who I talked about already. One of the most productive college tight ends in this class. He comes in bigger than his listed size, and he looked like he belonged with big school players, according to a lot of the articles that I read. And, oh, by the way, we don't have Tyler Warren here, who's the best tight end in the class. We don't have Colson Loveland here from Michigan, who's probably the second best tight end in this class. So this class is deep, and it's talented at this position. And one last thing I wanted to talk about, too, Daniel Jeremiah, who's the NFL Network's lead draft analyst, he dropped his first top 50 NFL draft prospects for the 2025 class. And I'll link that down below in the description. If you guys want to check it out yourself, he had a lot of, interesting nuggets that he dropped in the article. But I do want to talk about my major takeaways, because an analyst like Daniel Jeremiah, who, number one, literally covers the draft. He's the voice of the draft. He is the guy for NFL Network that is talking about all the picks when we get to draft day. He's also very plugged in and is a great indicator of draft capital. So I wanted to check in on this article because, we're all talking about how great this running back class is. We're talking about how good the tight end class is. Wide receivers, there's a bunch of top names and then not a whole lot else. We're not talking about how good the quarterback class is. Is Daniel Jeremiah in lockstep with what we're saying? So the takeaways that I had from his top 50 is, first of all, and this one is probably the biggest takeaway, he listed Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, and he did not list him as a cornerback. He is the second best prospect in his top 50, which we all know about Travis Hunter. He's spectacular. But he wrote in his article, he prefers that he prioritize offense and moonlight on defense, which is not what we've been hearing about Travis Hunter from a lot of other people. A lot of people have said he's going to play corner in the next level, and he's going to mix in on offense. And Daniel Jeremiah is saying, this could just be his opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, that he should prioritize offense. He should play wide receiver first and maybe play nickel corner or something like that, or play less snaps on defense. And again, it's likely just his opinion, but he could be hearing this about Travis Hunter as well. He's very plugged in. So that is my biggest takeaway. If we get Travis Hunter playing wide receiver full-time in the NFL, because DJ has heard that that's what NFL teams want him to do, that is great news for this class, because you suddenly get a prospect who, if we knew he was playing wide receiver full-time, would probably be like the 102 in this class, or at least top 5 rookie pick in this class. So if he's going to play wide receiver at the next level and an NFL team's going to announce him as a wide receiver, want him to play wide receiver most of the time, that is great news for the draft class in general. So that was my biggest takeaway from his top 50. Ashton Jeanty is also his number 3 player, which is not really a shock to anybody, but it does bode well for his ability to get top 10 to 15 capital. I would imagine, because this class doesn't have a ton of, wide receivers and quarterbacks and, these high value positions, that Jeanty's going to go higher than people think. I think people think he's going to maybe slide to like 20 with Denver or whatever. I think he's going to be off the board by Dallas at 12. I think that's his absolute floor. So Ashton Jeanty is his number 3 player, like I said. Also, staying at the running back position, very, very noteworthy that he has 4 running backs in his top 36. Like I said already, sometimes we get carried away with the running back draft capital. We always want running backs to go higher than they do, but he has Omarion Hampton at 29 of University of North Carolina. He has Quinshon Judkins of Ohio State at 34, and he has Travion Henderson, also of Ohio State, at 36. So the fact that all 4 of these guys, Jeanty, Hampton, Judkins, Henderson, all in the top 40 of his top 50 means that this bodes well for the draft capital at the running back position. We're not just pipe dreaming these guys into top draft capital. The actual scouts believe it too. It feels like, and it literally has been multiple years, that we've seen 4 or 5 running backs go in the top 50. We have not seen, since 2021, we had Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams go in the top 50 of the NFL draft. Since then, 2022, we saw Breece Hall go high. Kenneth Walker went high. 2023, we saw Bijan and Gibbs go high. Charbonnet snuck in, but he had a bad landing spot. So we haven't really seen more than like 3 to 5 running backs go in the top 2 rounds since 2020, really, since Jonathan Taylor and Swift and Dobbins and all those guys came out. So this is great news, man. I broke it down on Twitter in the running back prospect model. When I ran the 2025 class through it, its best comparable class is 2020. Where we had one guy at the top, which was Jonathan Taylor, which Genty in this class, and we had a bunch of great options like Judkins, like Hampton, like Henderson, like Caleb Johnson, like Cam Scatterbo, like Ollie Gordon. Like there's tons of great guys in this class, and that's kind of what filled out the depth of the 2020 class. Now, unfortunately, a lot of them ended up getting injured, and their careers didn't go as we thought they were going to, but as prospects, they were all really good options. So that's great news for the running back class. DJ sees it too. Great news for us. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, who I talked about already, the best two tight ends in this class by most boards, they were his top 7 prospects. They literally were 5 and 7 in his top 50. So I think a lot of people are expecting Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, they'll be like 109 to 112 in Dynasty rookie drafts. Dude, if Tyler Warren goes in the top 8 overall picks, he's going to go higher than that. And same goes for Colston Loveland too. And he actually mentioned that Tyler Warren reminded him of Rob Gronkowski. So we're getting a lot of high praise for this tight end class. If you're expecting, 203 to get a tight end who's really good in this class, I mean, you might still get one because the class is really deep, but I don't think you're going to get Warren or Loveland. I think it's very possible that these guys go way before people are thinking come May, when we're actually drafting these Dynasty rookie drafts. The quarterback class, not expected to be very good, right? Cam Ward is his QB1 at 10th overall. Shedeur Sanders his QB2 at 11th overall. And Jackson Dart his QB3 at 41st overall. So he's expecting 2 quarterbacks to go in the first round. And then Jackson Dart maybe early on day 2 or something like that. We know this is a down quarterback class. Daniel Jeremiah confirms it. It also seems too like Daniel Jeremiah is anticipating that we're not just going to get a quarterback to Tennessee at 1, quarterback to Cleveland at 2 because they need quarterbacks. It's possible that these teams might pass on the quarterbacks because they're not really great quarterback prospects, and they might go with Travis Hunter or, Abdul Carter, whatever prospect they want to go with instead. So that's a good, nugget to note for the quarterback class. If you're worried that, Cam Ward's going to go to the Titans and Shedeur Sanders is going to go to the Browns, it's possible these QBs slide a little bit and they go to better landing spots as a result. Wide receiver position, I thought it was noteworthy that Ted McMillan, his wide receiver 1, didn't find his name off the board until 15th overall. I think a lot of people are expecting Ted McMillan to go like 4th overall in the NFL draft. I think it's possible that he slides out of the top 10, given that's where DJ has him ranked. Matthew Golden of Texas is actually his wide receiver 2, not Luther Burden, not Emeka Egbuka. Egbuka's his wide receiver 3, Burden his wide receiver 4. All of those guys, Golden to Burden, 2 to 4, are ranked in the like 25 to 32 range. So again, maybe the wide receivers slide more than people are thinking. And then again, those were the only wide receivers in his top 50. So Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, some of those guys are probably going to find their names called later in day 2, maybe late round 2, early round 3, something like that, just according to DJ's first top 50 right now. And then speaking of the tight end class, he also has Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo, and this is pre-Senior Bowl, by the way. They might even go higher than this in his top 50, and I believe Mason Taylor was in his top 40 as well. So worth noting that the tight ends are expected to go high, or at least they're just great prospects, and then the running back position also expected to go high as well. So that is the end of the video. Again, kind of just off the cuff recap of the Senior Bowl, recap of Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. Again, if you guys do want to get a buy, sell, hold report or a team review, both of those things are free when you sign up for an annual subscription over on Flock Fantasy using the promo code FSE. You'll get a free voucher to use a buy, sell, hold report, and the instructions for how to actually redeem that are on the screen right now. You'll get a free voucher to use a team review. We can break down one of your Dynasty rosters for you, tell you exactly what we would do, so on and so forth. Those products are both available over on Flock Fantasy. I will link them down below in the pinned comment and the description of this video as well. If that interests you, definitely check it out. Our Dynasty rankings are up to date, all the veterans. Dynasty rookie rankings coming very, very soon as well. Our Dynasty rookie draft guide will be dropping about 2.5 weeks from now. So if you guys are interested in that, check out all of that stuff over on flockfantasy.com. Use the promo code FSE when you sign up, and make sure to check out everything the site has to offer. If you sign up for an annual right now, you'll be covered from now all the way until the Dynasty rookie season, the redraft season. That'll get you our Dynasty rookie guides, our film breakdowns. We break down all 22 of all the top prospects in the 2025 class. You'll get covered all the way to the redraft season. You'll get our redraft guide out of that. You'll get covered for in-season content as well. And the site that you sign up for right now will have a ton of, facelifts and a ton of upgrades by the time you guys are actually using it this time next year. So definitely the best deal you can get out there is signing up for an annual sub over on Flock Fantasy. But if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, comment any of your thoughts down below. We'll have a Dynasty Decisions coming out in a couple of days. If you have any suggestions for videos, leave them down below in the comments. But with that being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.